I think we're live. Let me double check. Double check.
It looks like it.
Yeah, I think so.
Woohoo!
Because you know how there's that like delay. Who knows?
Oh yeah, I know. This one's like it's so weird. StreamYard is the strangest one because it like turns everybody backwards and everything.
Yeah, like you're on this side to me, but it doesn't show up that way. Anyway, hello. Thank you for joining me with Birdie in the Books and Robert P Ottone for a discussion on the vile things we created. This book is
Woo!
insane. um, but I hate giving synopsises when I have the author with me. So if you don't mind giving a short little
Yeah,
synopsis.
yeah. I think the best way to put it is like the vile thing we created is sort of a modern Rosemary's Baby about a young couple who put
Yeah.
off having they put off having a kid as long as humanly possible, and then they kind of start to see that their friends have sort of withdrawn from them,
Yeah.
and because all their friends have taken that next step, and they decide, like we do miss our friends, we need our friends, and maybe we've put this off long enough, maybe we've been selfish and not taking this next step and providing a good life for another child or whatever. So they do it, and because it's a horror novel, everything goes really well. And
For the first little bit.
yeah, everything's perfectly fine, perfectly fine.
And then you get terrified.
Yeah, exactly. But
If you
yeah,
want,
that's the vile thing in a nutshell.
if you want to have children, don't read this book.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it for sure.
Hi, thank you for coming.
That's so funny. Yeah, it's
Hi,
it's
Renee.
definitely. I don't have kids, and my wife and I, we don't have children,
Mhm.
and it's not something that like we're really even considering. But in the future, like we might adopt. But in a lot of my own personal anxieties about like having kids were kind of put into this. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And you, I was reading the first part of the book, and I swear you were in my brain because I forget what chapter it is, but there's a quote that I think Lola says, "Are we doing this just to be part of the group? Are we
Right.
doing?" And I'm just like, "Thank you,"
Yeah.
because I literally, because I'm like the only one in my friend group that I grew up with that doesn't have kids and isn't married yet.
Same. Same. I have one of my best friends. He and his wife don't have kids, um, and another one doesn't have kids. So basically, there's only the three of us out of like 20 something. So it's a lot. It's a lot,
Yeah.
and it can be overwhelming because there's and it's not like I don't like kids. I mean, I'm a teacher in my everyday life. I like kids just fine. I just, I just feel very like there's other things that I want to do, if that makes
Yeah.
sense, and like not saying like there's things that they want to do that they can't do or anything, but it's just a lot harder. When you have
Yeah.
anybody who has kids that they could probably relate. Like it's just hard. It's hard when you have kids to
It
do
is hard.
what you want.
I'm the oldest of a big family, so it's just like I'm just like I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm all right now. If it
I'm the
happens, great.
baby.
If not, you're good. Oh, you're the baby.
I'm the baby in my family. I have an older brother and an older sister, but like,
Okay.
I just like it's my mom and dad had me when they were in their early 30s, and I'm in my late 30s now, and I know like, there's a lot of health things that could go into having a
Yeah.
kid at this age and stuff. So it's like, I'm good. I
It just
don't
it just
want,
it opens like Pandora's box of concerns. It's like,
yeah,
are you living in the proper area school wise? All
right.
that kind of stuff.
Right. And it's tough too because there's like a lot of and even then, like, let's say you are in a really great. So I'm on Long Island, right? And like New York has some really great schools.
Yeah.
Long Island does not have a lot of great schools, and I say that as someone who teaches in one. But like it's difficult because all the best schools on Long Island, you need to have like a $1.8 million house to
Yes.
live in those school
Same
districts.
with Jersey.
Yeah,
That's the main reason I moved down here is like to buy a house. Like I would have to have 5 roommates to buy a house in New Jersey, where I'm originally from.
yeah. It's crazy. It's just too
It's
much.
ridiculous.
And then and you know what the funniest thing is? Like all the best schools in New York are upstate New York.
That's bananas to me. You would think the opposite.
I know it's crazy, but they're all in that Orange County area. All like
Yeah,
actually like the best schools in the entire country are in Orange County, New York,
that's weird.
and Massachusetts. Like we got the best public schools on lock.
Hi, Pat. It's so late. Your time. Go to sleep.
What time is it where she is?
She's in the UK.
Oh, good God! So they're sitting
Go to
10
bed.
o'clock.
I
That's
love you, but
great.
go to bed.
Good Lord. Kids in this economy is wild. I see that comment. That is a fact.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
I have a statistic that I put in the book, and I'm sure it's more now, but when I looked it up, the cost to raise your average middle class child in America is like $300,000.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
Like you
and that's
can't.
crazy,
Like I have younger siblings, and I'm just like, Dad, how do you do it? Like it was expensive when I was a kid. It's
right?
like triple what it was when I was a kid.
I can't even wrap my head around like how parents do it. I like have nothing but applause for them, but like, good Lord.
Yeah, it's just a lot.
Whew.
And but like, I also like that. I don't know if this will come off as like a backhanded compliment because I don't mean it that way, but I appreciate how you wrote women in this book. Like you didn't usually write women how a lot of male authors write women,
Good. I'm glad.
which I greatly appreciate.
No,
Because it's just
I don't take that as a backhanded compliment at all. My whole goal in life is to never end up on the men writing women Reddit.
if
It's
you
just
want to laugh, that's a great Reddit to
it
look
is a
at.
great Reddit. It is a great Reddit. I really don't ever want to like write women in a really kind of voyeuristic, creepy way. Um, and I find like a lot of male authors do that. And I think like again, it's and even and it goes beyond just like with describing women physically or whatever.
Yeah.
It goes into like dialogue and how they
Hmm.
think and stuff. And then like I just remember I don't remember where it was where I learned this or like had this revelation. I don't think I ever did learn it. I think it was just something I realized. But like writing men and women is no different.
Yeah.
You
They
know,
make it
like
seem like it's so hard.
yeah, it's like
It's
we're
really
literally
not.
all the same. Like there's no reason why we can't why men couldn't just be like, yeah, this is just a person. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't.
It's just crazy to me.
There I remember reading years ago there was this old like standard with DC Comics where like they would give they give like a bible to all the new writers who handle like the big characters. So like if you're writing Superman, they give you a bible basically on how to write
Yeah.
Superman. So one of the things was Superman never asks questions. Questions are not something a man of action asks. And I remember thinking how stupid that was, because like why would any man, quote unquote, man of action would ask a lot of
I would
questions,
hope so.
right? And it just made no sense, that edict. And it's like this is supposed to be like our most powerful superhero. It's arguably the greatest superhero in the history of comic books, but DC is saying, oh, he can't ask questions. Wonder Woman can ask questions. It is misogyny. It's 100%
Yeah.
misogyny. I don't think it's like
Exactly.
that anymore. Thankfully, I think
It's
DC
getting
has
better.
evolved. Yeah, I mean, misogyny is for sure still there,
Yeah.
and it's also like it's funny because like in the new Exorcist or whatever, kind of takes a dig at misogyny a little bit because there's a part where they ask Chris McNeil like, oh well, why weren't you in the room when the exorcism was going on or whatever? And she's like, oh, the patriarchy. And it's like, well, no, hang on. Like, that's not how this works either. It's not sexism or misogyny. It's literally she wasn't a priest.
Yeah.
So why should you
Yeah.
do that? But like,
Yeah.
it's stuff like that where it's like, it's definitely misogyny or whatever. Superman doesn't ask questions. That's Clark Kent's job. That's a good statement. I like that. I think there should be as many questions asked in a superhero comic book as humanly
Exactly.
possible from all sides. Yeah.
I know that they gave my former professor just wrote a short story comic in a anthology for Wonder Woman. So
Oh,
they gave
cool.
her a huge, like, Bible or
Yeah.
textbook or whatever you want to call it of what she can and can't do and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I get like saying stuff like, "Oh, well, she can't just kill someone," or like she can't just, she can't curse, she can't do
Yeah,
whatever. But like, again, also because it's a huge property, they're going to tell you what you can and can't do. But like,
right.
it makes sense that they have to protect their intellectual property. I know they do that with Alien also because when Mary San Giovanni wrote her awesome Alien book that came out, they gave her like a huge like digital PDF Bible.
Really?
Yeah, that had like the history of the company, and it had like, oh, these are the events of the first Alien movie. This is the events of Alien Covenant. Like it had everything lined up, and she said it was really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I was like, I want to write an Alien book just to get that.
I want to. I've just started getting into like, I guess you would call them like tie-in books.
Yeah, media tie-in books. Yeah,
Yeah. Like my boyfriend's big into Doctor Who, so I'm trying to understand Doctor Who,
yeah,
which is a
Doctor Who's
lot.
awesome.
Which is a lot.
It is a lot. It's only 50, 60 years of film and TV.
I'm trying really hard. And before we get really into spoilers, I wanted to mention that he was here when the package with the book showed up,
Oh,
and
nice.
the little baby dolls, and I was like, a bunch of babies, and he was like, "Excuse me?" I'm like, I opened the package, and I was like, "I'm not kidding."
Awesome. Yeah, I
Yeah,
love those little plastic babies. They're like my favorite thing that I ever found ever.
I don't even want to know where you found them.
Best not mentioned the creepy corners of the internet that I scoured.
The weird stuff you can find. But it's very strange. Like I can read horror, but I have a hard time watching it.
Sure.
Like I don't know what that is about me, but like The Exorcist and the original It scared the crap out of me as a child.
Yeah. Yeah. The original It is very, 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 very scary.
I
I
can't.
don't think the new one is particularly scary,
Yeah,
personally. But my wife is a big fan of the original, so we watch the original It at least once a year, and it's still really terrifying. We like, and it's also like a little bit more subconscious scary because there's that
hmm
one part where Pennywise is like, you see all the graves that he's got like
yeah.
buried or dug or whatever for the Losers Club, and one of them is filled, and that's
Ugh,
before they know that one of them is dead, and it's like, oh,
yeah. I remember
That's-
my dad watching it when I was like really, really little. I think I was 4 or 5, and
yep.
I've been terrified ever since. I can't.
There was like a whole I was like, I don't know, I think, what is that, 1991, so I would have been like 7.
Yeah, I was
And
1.
yeah, so like it was, I think it was 90. I could be wrong, might be
Yeah, it was
92.
early. It was early '90s for sure.
Yeah, and I just remember there was like a wake of like terrified children when it came to clowns after that movie came out.
I'm a grown adult, and I'm still terrified of clowns.
Yeah,
I
I did
can't do it. I can't.
I do these like true crime lectures and stuff, and I talk about, oh, Chris Williams is here. What's up, man?
Hi, thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Tim
Uh,
Curry is amazing. We'll
hell
go
yeah.
down that. We'll go down that rant later because I'm a huge theater nut. So
Oh yeah, Tim Curry rules. But like I do true crime things, and I did a whole thing about Gacy, and there was
there's
an
a
interview
lot
with,
to think about there.
yeah, I know. Yeah.
Woo!
There's a really interesting interview with a professional clown where they have the professional clown like look at Gacy's makeup, and he's like, well, right away you know something's wrong here, and they're like, well,
Yeah,
how do you know? And he's like, well, no clown has sharp angles. Like they never
yeah.
paint their faces
I
with
would
sharp
never
angles.
think of that, but
Yeah, because the
that's
idea is that the sharp angles would scare children too much. Whereas, like, if you look at Pennywise, you look at Gacy, they both have, and the Joker. Like, you look at
yeah,
that's 3 characters right there. They all have sharp angles to their
right.
makeup and stuff. So it's just really interesting. Like when you look at Pennywise, and in the vein of Gacy and stuff. And remember, like Gacy was like, he had only just been, not that he'd only just been caught around the time the book came out or anything, but
Yeah,
like he was still in the public conscience, like when that movie came out, when that first one came out. So
yeah. And I don't know if you remember, but like when I was in high school, they had that thing with like clowns just standing
yeah,
places,
yeah,
and I was just like, How about no?
Yeah. I
No.
I was student teaching at the time when that was going on, and I had these eighth graders, these big bad eighth graders, and
Oh,
they were
middle
like,
school. Ugh, no, thank you.
they were like, Mr. O, the clowns said that they were going to come to the school today, and I was like, what? Where'd you see that? And they're like, it's on Twitter, and then I pulled up the Twitter,
Hmm.
and they said they were like, oh, we're going to come for the kids at this particular middle school,
Yeah,
and I was like, okay, I have to go tell our head of security and
right. To be
everything.
safe.
Like because it's who
Yeah.
knows. So I did that, and then I went back to class or whatever because they had like an assembly or something, and the kids are like, Mr. O, like, what about the clowns? Like they were legitimately scared,
Yeah.
and I was like, guys, the last thing in the world that I would ever let happen to you is some nerd in a clown costume get anywhere near you. It would be
Ugh.
the last foolish thing that that person did on this planet.
Ugh. I
Like,
just. Ugh. No.
I felt so bad for them because they were legitimately afraid.
Yeah, and understandably, because they would just be like, I remember walking down the street, and I lived in a cul-de-sac, and they
Hmm.
were just behind, like behind my dad's house, and I'm just like,
Hmm.
how I know?
Yeah, yeah, hard
Like,
pass, hard pass. Like, and it's most of the time it's a joke, and they're just trying to be like, oh, viral and all this nonsense. But like, you're causing like actual children to be afraid. Like,
yeah.
there's something really wrong there. So that was a big problem for me.
I just anyway, getting back to the point.
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like we're all over the place,
That's
but like I
usually
just
how it goes with me. I told you.
yeah, you would fit perfectly in my large Italian family. You would be fine.
Excellent.
um, but like I love how you broke it down into the different trimesters with
Hmm.
how you wrote it. Like I appreciated that like you talked about her Lola. I mean, I my dad's dog's name is Lola, so every time I read it, I just this is weird. um, but like you didn't treat her like she was completely going crazy
Yeah,
because
yeah,
that's a big trope in a lot of like older horror specifically
yeah.
that it's all a woman going crazy and things like that. Like she was to an extent, but you didn't treat her like she was nuts.
Oh yeah, yeah. Thank you. I'm glad. Like, I'm not a huge fan of like the gaslighting
Yeah.
aspects of
Mm-hmm.
horror. Um, that I find nothing more tedious than when something is actually like going on, and we as the audience know something's actually going on, and everyone's like, "Oh well, no." Characters in the work are going, "Well, no, everything's fine." It's like, well, we know not everything's not fine. She knows everything's not fine. Like,
Yeah.
let's not keep gaslighting everybody. Like and I love Rosemary's Baby.
It's still terrifying.
Yeah, it's still terrifying, like all these years later. But like
Yeah.
her husband, like Guy Woodhouse, is such a gaslighting piece of garbage.
He's awful.
Just the worst. I find,
I,
and it's like he's so bad. I find myself like chuckling at how absurdly over the top bad he
yeah.
is. And my wife is like, "Stop laughing. He's awful." And I'm like, "I know, but that's like he's almost like cartoonishly like if he had a little mustache and was twirling it while doing this stuff, it would be like, yeah,
Looking like Salvador Dali with the really crazy mustache.
yeah, yeah." But yeah, like so I'm not a huge fan, or like in like a slasher movie or something when they're like, "No, there's no killer out there. It's all fake," and it's like, well,
Yeah.
there's people dropping like flies, dude. Like, what are you talking about? But yeah, I find nothing worse than like gaslighting and stuff. There was I haven't read the book, but there was an HBO adaptation of The Outsider by Stephen King.
Yeah.
There's a moment in that that's like really kind of informed how I write
Mhm.
characters. I think it's like the second to last episode, and all of our hero characters are all hunkered down in this like one house, and it's not like it's a big scary house. It's literally
No.
just like a normal ranch. It's like a perfectly normal ranch house, and not only are all of our hero characters together, it's like 9 or 10 people all together.
Yeah.
They're all
And the house isn't big.
yeah,
It's like the
they're
size of
all
the house I
partnered
grew up
up,
in.
and like they're making the right moves of like, okay, I'm gonna be with these people in the back, you're gonna be with those people in the front. So like they're all kind of protecting each other, and they're sticking
Yeah.
close to each other, and it's not like the standard horror movie thing like, oh, I'm gonna go into the back for a while. Like it's not.
Or you're going to go down that really steep stairwell by yourself.
Right. Yeah, they're not doing like Knowles in The Thing where he hears a
Yeah.
spooky noise and goes and investigates, and it's like, cool, we're never gonna see you again.
You're
Bye.
gonna die now. Bye.
Yeah. It's like they're all literally doing the right thing.
That was one of my favorite adaptations, even though it didn't do well. I loved it.
I know it's just weird. Like I would love to see that same crew adapt John Langan's The Fisherman. I think they're the only ones
Woo!
who could do it justice as a miniseries.
Yeah. I think a lot of like I don't know if you've read it, but one of my favorite books of the past couple of years was The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones.
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
I want to see that as a miniseries so bad.
I think the guy who probably would have done the best job of that was this filmmaker named Jeff Barnaby, who made Blood Quantum.
Okay.
He was an indigenous director. Unfortunately, he died last year. He was a
Oh
young
no.
dude. He had cancer, apparently.
I'll
Um,
have to look into him now. I
yeah,
never
Blood
even.
Quantum is on Shudder, and I'll tell
Okay.
you, it is the best zombie movie since Day of the Dead.
I like zombie movies. I
Yeah,
just don't do clowns and like really messed up kids, which is really weird how much I love this cuz
yeah. Awesome.
and it was just okay. I'm going to go into spoilers cuz I have to.
Yeah, that's fine.
um so I'm going to put this banner so people don't yell at me that I'm spoiling and they didn't know I was
Oh, I love it.
spoiling.
I love that you have a spoilers banner. More people should
um
have
but like I love how you left the ending open
that. Mm-hmm.
because he didn't really die.
Mm-hmm.
Their son, and it was just but I also liked in your audiobook how there was differentiation between the voices like of the demon character and the kid.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Who, like your audiobook narrators were fantastic.
Oh my god, right? I feel so
Yeah,
lucky. I
they
feel
were
so
so
lucky.
fantastic.
Oh my god, I love them so much. I wish they would do all of my stuff.
Yeah, I was so excited when I saw you had audio like an audiobook. I was like, yes, because not a lot of horror authors get audio.
Right? And the fact that it had its own theme song, which, like, no joke, when I heard that theme song the first time, I actually cried
Yeah.
because I was like, this is exactly the kind of vibe I was hoping for with this. And
Hmm.
the producer of the audiobook actually wrote and performed that himself.
Really?
Travis Navarra is his name. And it is just so perfect. And then the two narrators just knocked it out of the park. Like, I could not believe it, especially once I heard the voice for Lola.
Yeah.
I was like in love. I was like, this woman is doing a spot
Everything.
on. Like, she is living, and it's so good. But yeah, I was so happy with that. I'm still happy with it.
Yeah.
And my publisher's happy. I hope more people check the. Honestly, like, and I'll say this: like, I writing the book, I
Hmm.
had the best time writing it, and I love the book and everything. The audiobook, in my mind, is like the ultimate version of the story.
Yeah. And the like the background music that you were talking about, like that helped keep you in the mindset
Yeah,
of
and
like
it's a
where you
good.
were.
And it's like I like it too because I feel like you get a lot of value out of it because it's like almost 12 hours long
Yeah,
and it's $5. Like that I really
exactly.
appreciate. My publisher is great with like and I appreciate this because like I'm a person who like I don't ever want to have a paperback book that's more than $20.
I
If it's in like
appreciate that. Thank you.
yeah, like I don't if it's in like Canada or something, I have no control over how the
Yeah.
Canadian translation of money goes, but like I'm not a fan of like, oh yeah, this is a paperback and it's $32, and I'm like, well, I'm not gonna buy that.
Yeah, or
It's
a
not gonna go.
hardcover that's 40 now.
Yeah,
I'm just
and
like
like, and
who
I'm
can afford
happy.
that?
I know, same. Like, I'm just that's a lot, but like, I was really happy that my publisher was like, no, we're gonna put it at 18. The audiobook is gonna be like 5, and I was like, if people are gonna buy it and you like audiobooks, buy the audiobook because
Yeah.
it's just the bang for your buck is crazy with the
It's my
audiobook.
it's my high recommendation because I did both. I listened and read with along with the book and the audiobook was fantastic.
Oh, good. I'm so glad.
I hope for if you decide to get more audio done of your work, you can get those two again because they were
I know.
fantastic.
I know. I want to really bad. I'm thinking like yeah. I just had a book come out, Curse of the Cobman. I think there might be an audio book of that, and if I have any say in who we hire, I will definitely be recommending. They're called Saturn V Sound. If anybody wants to look into their stuff,
Okay.
Yeah, I would definitely be recommending them. They're unbelievable.
That was like, and I also really liked that they didn't make the kid annoying.
Hmm.
Like, he was just a kid.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
The
it
way,
was just,
so like when I was writing him, Jonesy, I didn't want him to be like, oh, I'm like a little baby, blah blah blah, like acting like like precious little child or whatever. I wanted him to be like normal,
yeah,
and like I was thinking of like some of my friends' kids, and I was thinking of some of my wife's friends' kids who were all like funny and cute and weird, and like when I was writing him, I look at Jonesy, since we're in spoiler territory.
yeah.
I look at Jonesy as totally innocent in this book.
Hmm.
It's not his fault. He didn't ask to be brought into this world, number one.
Right,
And number two, he doesn't know what he is. He doesn't understand what his abilities are, why he can do
right.
the things he does. It's not his fault. So, like, on the one hand, like, yes, you can look at, like, Lola and Ian as the injured parties. Obviously, they're the characters we spend the most time with and everything. But also, like, Jonesy's not the villain either. And it's,
No.
because I
That's
was
why I felt like you feel so conflicted even when you finish the book. I'm just like, but nobody did anything technically wrong.
right, right. Because really, at the end of the day, Jonesy is just a new being.
Yeah,
And the closest thing to anything like existing that I could think of, and a lot of people read the book and they're like, oh, he's a devil or he's like a demon child. And it's like, well,
yeah,
he's not. But the closest thing I could think of, like in anything pre existing media, would be like Dr. Manhattan in Watchmen.
yeah.
That's kind of how I was envisioning him
Okay,
because
that makes
he's sort of
sense.
this like all powerful being. He's a godlike figure in many ways. Even though Jonesy is flesh and blood to an extent, he is at the end of the day like this entirely new being or deity or whatever you want to call him.
Yeah,
Um, and again, it's just not his fault. It's not, and nothing that happens is really his fault. He doesn't know that the things he's doing is terrifying to his parents. He just
yeah,
doesn't. He doesn't know because to him it's just like, well, no, this I could just do these things.
yeah. And that he quickly switches into like kid mode. Like, mom,
Yeah,
I was just going to get you extra, what was it, almond joys?
yeah, yeah.
And then like, but then there was that thing with the weird deer in the woods.
Hmm. Yeah, and the thing with the little girl when he accidentally
Ugh,
shoots the little girl, but was it an accident? Because we don't
right.
really, we don't know. Like, and also, like him appearing in multiple places and stuff. At the end of the day, like a child wants to be with their parents,
Yeah.
so he's gonna go where they are. So you could look at it like that in some ways. It's just again, like I feel more bad for Jonesy than I'm
Yeah.
like, boo, he's the villain. Like I know.
And I know this is a real spoiler, but since you left the ending ambiguous, are you doing more with the character or no?
I had um I had a like pseudo sequel idea,
Okay.
and then when I told my wife about it, she was like, having Jonesy in the sequel seems forced. In like the
I could
follow
I
seems a little
yeah.
forced. So I was like, all right, so now he's been excised from that idea,
Okay.
but there is a prequel idea that I'm playing with.
I like it. I like that.
Yeah.
And I just like, to me the real villain is Ian's mother
Hmm.
out of the whole crew.
Yeah.
Like, she
Yeah.
was awful.
So
I'm
I
like, I
haven't.
don't like you.
Yeah, she's pretty terrible. I will say so. Like, I haven't really talked too much about this in interviews or anything, but like, I wrote this during a very like contentious time between myself and my mother,
Mhm.
and some of the things that his mother says are things that my actual mother has said to me.
I was
Um,
gonna I was gonna ask because like it just seemed like it was too real not for it to be an actual thing.
yeah, yeah. Which sucks and was like very hurtful. Our relationship is much better now, but
Good.
like at the time when I was writing it, there was a lot of like frustration. And like a lot of that translated, so like, but the funny thing is like my mom has read the book, she's listened to the audiobook, she doesn't realize that Dana is essentially
Okay.
based on her. Yeah, which is good. I'm like, all right, great, you don't.
Yeah, doesn't cause another issue.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so that is kind of a big part of it. But like, if Lola and Ian are like based on me or like based on my wife and I in some capacity, Dan is definitely based on my mom.
I think a lot of authors do that, even if they're not realizing it. Like,
Yeah.
there's a little bit of the author in every book, I think.
Oh
'Cause
yeah.
I have
And
friends that write books as well, and you can see it for sure, especially if you know them well.
yeah, and it's funny, like when I was writing it and stuff, and then like I finished it, and I showed it to another author whose blurb is on the cover, actually.
Paul Tremblay?
Yes.
Can I just say I love his blurb? Like,
Yeah,
that
he's
it encompasses the whole entire book in one sentence. It's
yeah,
great.
yeah, he's pretty great. He said something funny because Paul Bear's Club had come out, and I was like, I love Paul Bear's Club. Like, I think Paul Bear. It's weird. I love Cabin at the End of the World and Paul Bear's Club equally. Like, those are my two favorites of
Yeah.
his work. And like,
Okay.
we were talking one day about Paul Bear's Club, and I was like, oh, like you got to get really personal with Paul Bear's Club and like talk a lot. There's a lot of you in there and stuff. And I
Mhm.
was like, I hope one day I could do that. And
Yeah.
he was like, Rob, he's like the vile thing, like, dude, what are you talking about? And I was like, oh shoot.
You did it without realizing it.
Yeah, and that's when it like really hit me. I was like, oh yeah, there is a lot of me in here. Whoops.
And I have to say, as someone that lives in the middle of nowhere in the woods, don't read this at night. Like, don't. I live in the middle of nowhere with a bunch of deer.
Yeah.
That was terrifying.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny. Someone tweeted the other day, and they tagged me in it. There was like a video that they had of like a bunch of elk on people's lawn. They
Mhm.
were like, "Well, this reminds me of something," and he tagged me, and I was like, "Fun." So I retweeted it, and I mentioned the story of like where the deer thing comes from in the book that I vile thing, and the deer thing comes from a very real thing that happened when my dad was driving me to elementary school one day.
Okay.
We were pulling down the driveway. We had a pretty long driveway. We pulled down the driveway, and on the front lawn were like dozens and dozens of deer, like for no reason whatsoever.
It's so
Like,
freaky.
it was bizarre. And I was like, Daddy, like, why are there so many deer? And he was like, I don't know, but let's get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
So we dipped out, but it's just weird. Like, we have a lot of deer over at my hello Ozma Khan. I like that name, Ozma. I'm probably
She's
saying that
lovely.
wrong.
No, you're saying it correctly.
Oh, sweet. But there's a lot of deer at my mom's house. My mom still lives in the house that I grew up in, so like we see them all
That's
the time
awesome.
down there. We don't have them up by us. We're on the north shore of Long Island. My mom is on the south shore.
Okay.
So it's like up here we've got like bunny rabbits, and that's about it. Whereas my mom
Yeah.
has deer and fox and all that cool stuff. But yeah, no, it was unnerving to see as like a kid, and I was like, well, let's do this as an adult and put it in a creepy book.
Yeah.
Arabic for precious. Oh, that's awesome.
I didn't know that, and I've known you for a while.
That's a nice name.
I'm so all over the place with this, but it was just I just liked how you didn't make anybody seem crazy. Like
Yeah,
like even if they seemed crazy initially when it first happened, like you understood their reasoning behind things.
yeah. I mean, there's even a part where they talk to each other about like, hey, are we going crazy?
Is this nuts?
Yeah, like, is this actually happening? And that's why I wanted to split the book up between Lola and Ian and go back and forth because, like, even though Ian at first is like, come on, and at first Lola's the same way. She's like, this is not real.
Yeah.
Um,
My pregnancy hormones are driving me crazy.
right. She
Basically.
was like, yeah, like this is just my body reacting weird. And Ian's stuff is like, I'm just stressed out, whatever,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. Eventually, they both realize, like, no, this is for real because they've both been dealing with different things during
Mhm.
the events of the book. And then once their experiences kind of align, that's when you sort of get like, okay, Lola's doing this while Ian's doing this, and blah,
Right.
blah, 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 blah. That's the only way that I could tell a story like this that kind of, and there's some time jumps and stuff in there. The only way to do this with the time jumps was to make sure I'm getting both story.
Right. That makes complete sense. I just there's so much my brain I haven't even written my review. That's how like why my brain is so scattered. um but like I also really liked how you see them change like when they're when they're first talking about having kids, and then they go out to dinner with their friends with kids, and they're like, the kids are gross. Like
Yeah,
they're always slimy and sticky, and
yeah,
yeah,
they are,
very true.
because they are.
They're very
100% they
gross.
are.
I have a lot of siblings, and yes, they are.
Yep, I remember we went to dinner, my wife and I, with like another couple who brought their kid. No, they brought their two kids, and like the one little girl sat like a perfect angel the whole time, and the other one is like climbing on the floor,
Yep, there's
picking
always
things. Oh my god, like
yeah.
picking things up and like making bracelets out of it. I'm like, I'm gonna throw up. Like, you're a dinner. Like, this is gross. Freaked me out. It freaked me out. And but that's just kids. Like,
Yeah,
I
kids
have.
put anything in their mouths. Like my
Oh,
2-year-old sister does it all the time. Like I'm just like,
oh,
why?
it's so weird and gross. I don't know. I wonder if I did that. As I probably
we
did, but
we did.
I have the worst immune system imaginable. Like on a
Join the
cold
club.
like I'm like a Dickensian orphan. A cold breeze could kill me. And my wife is always like, "That's because you didn't grow up eating dirt and playing outside and
Eating
stuff." And I was
worms.
like, yeah, like, I had a Sega and a Nintendo. I didn't have to go outside. I'm an indoor kid. So like, oh god.
Uh, but like it's just, and I also appreciated that you wrote that birth isn't easy for most women.
Hmm. Yeah, because it's
And I
not.
was no,
it's
no, it's not.
it's
And I actually told
literally
my
body horror.
yeah, I told my mother, I'm like, please don't read this because my mom had a um bad birthing experience with me. I was like, please don't read this. Not that it's not fantastic. I just no. I'm
Yeah,
just telling you no.
it's and like a big part of that too is like women of color. It's
Yeah. Oh,
especially
it's a
difficult.
huge thing.
Yeah. So like when I honestly, like, in writing the book, like I didn't know that it was so difficult for women of
Hmm.
color to carry to term, um, because there's like the institutions that we deal with. There's like the whole advocating for yourself and in a medical setting and stuff.
Yep.
All of this stuff goes into that, and it's like I was very happy to hear from readers, and women of color who were like, "Yeah, dude,
You
spot on."
That's why I
Like,
was like, who did you talk to? Because this is like I'm not obviously I'm not a woman of color, but
yeah,
I have a disability. So like
mhm,
there's issues when it comes to having a child with disabilities as well. So it's
yeah,
even though
yeah.
it's not the same thing, it's kind of in the same realm.
It's in the same ballpark, 100%, because it's just the way it is, and it's just weird. Women in general are at a disadvantage when it comes to medical. So like
Medical? Absolutely.
like here in New York, there's a weird law that like if you want to have a hysterectomy, um, you have to get two doctors to sign off on it and two different therapists, two
Mhm.
different psychologists to sign off on it.
Yep.
Whereas I'm a guy, right? If
You
I
can
want
walk
to
in and get it done today.
get exactly right, exactly right. Even
It's
so much so,
insane.
like we don't need to have a therapist say like, yes, he's whatever,
Yeah.
but like it's a faster decision if you do, and you could schedule it faster if you have that thing. And literally, my shrink was like, he's like, I'll sign whatever you want.
And the recovery process for men is much easier than it is on the woman if they decide to get the
Oh yeah,
hysterectomy or tubes tied or anything like that.
100%. If men had to have kids, the world would be a dramatically different place.
Men would cave by month 2, I
Yeah,
think.
100%.
If men had to have what women deal with on a monthly basis, men would cave by month 2.
I'd be dead. I'd be dead. I see my friends who deal with it, and my family, wife, sister, all that stuff, and it's like if like you can't tell me with a straight face that women aren't the superior. Like there's no reality. If you're like a guy who's like, I'm a man, men are the best. Like you're an idiot. Like
Sounds
you're an
like a
idiot.
bunch of people I went to high school with.
Yeah, seriously. And it's like it's just insane to me to think of that. Like
Yeah.
it's nuts.
It's so crazy to me, like, without saying names, I was talking to a friend of mine who, because his wife has issues and they wouldn't sign off on her getting a hysterectomy,
Mm,
he got fixed so there wasn't any issues.
okay.
And he was telling me, like, they were like, okay, like, no big
Yeah.
deal, no nothing, like, and they gave him so many drugs, and like when it comes to women having to get stuff done, they don't medicate us at all.
Yep.
I'm just like, but he was in for 2 seconds.
I have the perfect story for that because so over the summer when I was at StokerCon, right before I left, which was
I was
back in
so mad I
June.
missed it.
Oh, StokerCon was amazing. Like I've never cried in front of so many people in my life. But um, like when I was there, my wife had gotten poison ivy while I was away.
Oh, awful.
So, and she got it all over her, basically from the neck down, not on her hands, but like everywhere else.
Yeah.
And she was in so much pain. And she went to the doctor, she went to the hospital twice, like, and they never really gave her anything that was super helpful. I can't, this is hand on a Bible, true story. Like, put me in a
Hmm.
court of law. This is all for real. Like, I came home, I put on a blanket that she had used just on my legs,
Yeah.
and I got poison ivy just from the transfer
Yep.
of like a little bit or whatever.
Hmm.
I went to the dermatologist. He gave me, I'm not, this is no joke. He gave me a
Yep.
steroid cream, and a humongous
Yep.
tub of this stuff that literally took care of it in a day. My
Yep.
wife was suffering for 2 weeks longer.
It's crazy, and like it's any doctor, it's dermatologists, it's OBGYNs, it's
Yep.
insane.
Yep. And my wife was like, "Oh, the delicate baby gets all of the medication. I have to sit and be in pain." And I was like, "I'm sorry, this is awful."
Yeah, like it,
And
half the time, like any like if my dad was given something that I needed or something, he would give it to me because like
yeah,
he's like, you need it more than I do. It's like, go ahead, take it.
it is
It's
outrageous.
crazy. Like they're just like,
But you know
okay,
what's funny? I never like grew up with that because like my mom never went to the doctor for anything. She still doesn't. She goes for her like checkup every year, and that's it. And like
and
my
she's probably doing fantastically.
He's fine. He's gonna outlive us all. It's crazy. But
It's
like,
nuts.
my dad and I, anytime like something went wrong, we'd be like right to the doctor.
Yeah,
Like I'm like that now. If there's and even like the slightest hint that something is wrong, I'm like, I gotta go to the doctor.
yeah,
You know?
it's crazy. It's
Ugh.
just, but like it's so crazy to me that you put that in less than a 400-page book, and it wasn't like you did. It wasn't performative. Like it
Oh,
wasn't
good.
like a guy writing stuff because he feels like it needs to be out there.
Mhm. Yeah, it's weird. Like I don't know. I don't know why that experience. I don't know why other authors can't do that. I don't. It makes it was just writing the story,
Yeah,
and like doing the research. I think that's a big part of it. Is like sometimes authors don't want to do all the research that maybe they
yeah.
should, um, like looking into women of color having
Mhm.
kids, and that's not just African American women. That's
No.
Native American women. That is Latin women.
Yep.
Everything. Um, it's those numbers are terrifying. Like if you ever really want to scare yourself this Halloween, look up the numbers regarding women of color and having kids and how hard it is.
Look up the death rate compared to other races.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Hmm. So yeah, like I don't know. Maybe they don't want to do the research. I don't know.
Yeah. It's
Um,
just it doesn't
that's
make sense to me because it's not that hard.
it's not that hard. And honestly, and this is like the teacher and the nerd in me, maybe, but like
Yeah,
research is like my favorite part.
that's mine too.
Yeah. Like I just
I'll go
finished.
down rabbit holes quickly.
Oh, 1000%. I just finished. Well, I didn't finish. I realized it's so funny. I revised something and then I realized, oh, I forgot this because I'm an idiot. So like,
Is it your
I
middle grade? Because I saw that you were revising a middle grade.
yeah, it was a middle
Okay.
grade thing. So I finished revising that and then I went back into it. But like the best part of that was research. It was the best part of that was the research. It was fun learning about that region of America and everything. It was great. Another reason why I don't feel the need to have a child, a fear of not being looked after throughout the whole
Yep.
thing. One hundred
Yep.
percent, 100%.
With you 100% on that comment, Renee.
Yeah, the healthcare system. It sounds, it's nothing anybody doesn't know, but the healthcare system in America sucks.
Yep. Completely.
Yeah.
And it was just crazy to me that I was thinking about all this in less than 400 pages. I was
Like,
like, you're literally in one book have become I'm going to literally buy everything you have now.
oh,
So if you have any extra copies of anything that's out of print, let me know.
there might be something in April that might be out of print.
Okay. Cuz I'm going to pre-order the your is it an anthology?
My
Cover?
collection
Yes, that's it.
just came out yesterday. Yep.
Okay, I didn't miss it. Yay.
No, no, no. It's we just had the launch event at Barnes and Noble here last night. So it was me and four other authors, and we all did readings, and there was signings and stuff. It was
That's
so much fun.
awesome.
It was
That's awesome.
it was like I was so blessed that these authors came out. We had some other authors who were slated to come, but they unfortunately had COVID, so they had to cancel.
Ooh, yeah.
But it was amazing. The turnout was great. The
I
store
can't wait
was,
to get back to book events.
oh my god, right? Like
I want to so bad.
I've done so many this year just because of Vile Thing and now like the
Mhm.
collection and the Cobman or whatever that like
The
l-
collection is the wrapped in
yeah,
plastic, right?
yep.
Yes, okay.
I'm just looking forward to like taking time off a little bit to like because I'm starting a new teaching job soon and
Congratulations.
thank you. Thank you. I'm excited about it. It's off Long Island, so this is kind of meant to be like the thing that moves my wife and I off Long
Mhm.
Island finally. So um but like I'm doing that and also like this is live. I'm just going to say it because it's fun. I just signed a 3-book deal with Weird House Press, so I have 3 more books coming with them.
Yay!
Yeah.
Yay!
Which book's going out of print in April? Oh,
Are you allowed to say?
I'm not allowed to say because the publisher doesn't know yet.
Oh!
Yeah, yeah. I promise when it happens, I will let people know.
Oh, trust me, I will be posting it everywhere when I can.
And feel free to bother me about it too.
Oh,
Feel
well,
free
but
to really bug me.
I'm gonna
Like for
become your
real.
new best friend now.
Please, please do message me anytime. Like you're awesome. Did you ever get nervous with book events like that, where it's also a little bit more of a showcase and you have to do readings and such? That's a great question. Um, no, I don't really. I'm like a lot of authors like really worry about like when the attention's on them and when they have to read or whenever they do this or whatever. But like my dad was in radio, um, and like he kind of taught me. And I used to do a radio show when I was a little kid, so there
No
was
way.
yeah, yeah.
That's
So like
awesome.
I've always been like performative, so I don't flinch like when the lights go on or
Yeah,
whatever, which I think is why like I get the opportunities that I do because like I'm not nervous to get out and get in front of a camera or get in front of like a microphone or whatever or like you know it doesn't bother me. Like I actually like it. I like reading live. I do. The one thing I struggle with when it comes to reading live is choosing something to read. However,
that was gonna be like literally one of my questions
oh yeah,
of how you choose when it's like a collection or something like that.
yeah. So in this case, I'm very lucky. Wrapped in Plastic has kind of the perfect reading story in it. It's called A Letter to the Ghost in my basement. Um, and it's just a guy writing a letter to the ghost that lives in his basement. And it's the judging by the response I got last night, it's going to be my go-to reading thing moving forward. Give us the first word of the title so I could buy the. That's not helpful, I know, but
No,
the. You just gotta buy everything.
which is
We're
what
all
I'm gonna do, Renee, as soon as we get off.
very. It's interesting because like it's hard choosing what to read, and some authors really stress out about it, and some people really obsess about like, oh, how much time do I have? How much do I do this? Whatever. My whole thing with reading is like I'd rather just what about the last word? Oh, now I'd give it away. That right there should tell you that it's only a 2-word title.
Ah.
So um, I've got a couple of those, so
Yes, you do.
you'll just have to choose. But like a lot of authors obsess about like, oh, I only have 7 minutes, I have 5 minutes, whatever. My whole thing with reading is like, I'm always going to shoot to be on the shorter side of
Mhm.
reading because I'd rather interact with the crowd. I'd rather do crowd work and like answer questions if they have them or
Yeah,
make jokes and make people laugh and stuff because people are there to have fun. Like at the end of the day, like, yeah, we write spooky stuff and we want to scare you. And like, yeah, do we want to say something about like an issue? Sure. Like, yeah, is it important to me that like I mentioned the thing about women of color having a hard time having kids and like
yeah,
the idea of like societal pressure on couples and all that with this book? Yeah, but at the end of the day, I just want to entertain you. I want to make you laugh. I want to make you creeped out, and then I want you to be like, cool, on to the next thing. Like I hope that you know do I want people to buy all my books? Of course, but like I just want you to enjoy whatever it is of mine that you're reading in that moment. Like just enjoy what you enjoy, and if you don't like it, I still appreciate you taking the time to read it. I bad reviews don't bother me.
See, you're one of the only authors that I've talked to that says that.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm not saying that to like throw any other author under the bus or anything, but like I know people that refuse to look because they don't want to because they know themselves.
Yeah, I just I just got a review on the Vile thing. I do look at them. I do
Hmm.
look at all the
Yeah,
reviews and stuff, especially on Goodreads. It's like impossible not to because there's like every time a new one comes in, like that number ticks up or whatever. But like
yeah,
I'll look at the bad ones and I'll be like, okay. And really, what the negative reviews say is like it's a slow burn. Like this is a
yeah.
slower book, but like that's what I like. I like a good slow burn. Like if you don't want a slow
I
burn,
prefer slow burn when it comes to horror, honestly.
100%. If you're not a slow burn person, check out Curse of the Cobman, which is like my
Right.
newest book. That book goes at a breakneck speed. Oh, Tanner Reeve do.
This is not your book, but I'm in the middle of this, and this is a slow burn on slow burn on slow burn, and I
Oh,
love
is
it.
it? He's a
It's
genius
fantastic.
though. That
It's
yeah, like that's the
fantastic.
thing. Like when you could do it right, if you could do it like Tanner Reeve do, like you're on another level.
I
Like
want to be her when I grow up.
she's amazing. Like holy
I
smokes.
would love to just pick her brain because
Yeah.
everything she writes is amazing.
Yeah. Imagine a conversation like being in the room for a conversation between her and Neil Gaiman. That would
I
be
would die
nuts.
because Neil Gaiman is one of my favorite authors of all time. I would
And
die.
I think they're friendly too. So like that's a possible thing that
That
could
that
happen.
doesn't surprise me because Neil Gaiman seems like such like a sweet man.
Yeah. Yeah. He seems awesome. But yeah, negative reviews don't bother me because realistically, at the end of the day, like you took the time to read it,
Yeah,
and I do appreciate that. Like there's one review that is like I think one or two or whatever that are do not fin or did not finish or whatever.
yeah,
And hey, like if that's not your cup of tea, maybe one of my other things in the future is if you give
right.
me another chance. That's
Because
all.
you write so widely in the genre that like
Yeah.
even if one book isn't for one person, like that doesn't mean to like fully write off the author.
Yeah.
If you try like 4 or 5 things and you're like their writing style is just not for me, that's okay.
That's how it was when I was reading at first anyway. Brian Evanson at first to me was like it wasn't too heady, but it was dense. It was like hard for me to really dedicate myself to.
Yeah.
But then like I just read another story and then another story and then like literally in the same collection. It was the Song for the Unraveling of the World. The first story in there was hard for
Okay.
me to like really dive into, but then I fell into the second one and then the third one. And then that's just like, okay, cool. So if I had bailed out on this first story, I would have been out of luck because I love this guy's
Right.
stuff.
Right.
So it's just how it is. And
Yeah,
people have different tastes in different stuff. Some people like
exactly.
splatterpunk, some people like vampires, some people like whatever. That's
And
the
I'm
whole
so
thing.
all over the map that I can't tell you what I like because I like a little bit of everything from everybody.
Same,
Like I'm just
same.
all over the place.
I'm the same way. Like I don't I tend I've noticed that like I tend to write like more folk horror than anything
Yes.
else.
That was actually I had that in my notes that
Oh,
you're more
cool.
folk horror to me than like you're giving me more, and I mean this in the best way possible, like a mix between Stephen Graham Jones and Grady Hendrix.
Oh my
Because
god.
you have the comedic end of Grady Hendrix, and like you have the slow burnness of Stephen Graham Jones to me at least.
My god, that is a very high compliment. Thank you. Thank you. That means a lot to me because both of those guys are guys that I look up to a tremendous amount.
I don't think I would be able to speak if I ever met Stephen Graham Jones.
I
I'd be
think
like, "Hi."
like I've never gotten like I got starstruck meeting Matthew Bartlett
Okay.
at Necronomicon because I'm like, this guy's a genius. Like, how am I ever going to talk to this guy? And then like the first time, but he's like cool as hell. And then I met Michael Sisko was the same thing. Like, I was like, this guy's a genius. I love his stuff, and we've become friends. Like, he's
He sent
just
me an email and he was an absolute doll of a human being.
yeah, yeah. He is. He really is. It's
I was
crazy.
like,
And
"Oh my
like,
god, you're adorable."
yeah, he's unbelievable. Like, it's funny because you go into like if you go into meeting these people and you put up like the wall of like the fan
Yeah.
and the author or whatever, it's harder to get past that. But if you go into it like they're everybody's just people, like we're
Yeah.
all just doing something that we think is fun,
It's
you
like
know?
that knee-jerk reaction of like I even felt uncomfortable at first reaching out to you. I'm like, technically on YouTube, I don't have that many followers. I don't know if he'll say yes, but what the hell?
No, who cares? Like I love it. Like I love things like this where and because we have a really lovely crowd too, like
Yeah.
they're asking questions and like having a good time. Like that's I love that stuff. Like
Yeah.
this is what it's all about for me. Like I would rather so like I've done and it's funny you say this like oh I don't have a big audience or whatever, but like at the end of the day, your audience doesn't matter. It's the person, you
Yeah.
know. And it's
I
like
like my little crew.
yeah, and they're awesome. Like they're talking about buying each other books and graphic
Yeah.
novels and stuff. I love that.
Yep.
Like, good. That's how this should be.
Yeah.
You know, like you, we shouldn't be putting so much. And actually, it was Sadie Hartman said she wrote this great blog with she did this woman's YouTube show and she had like 20,000 followers, which was a lot or whatever.
That's
And
insane.
yeah, and then she was like, it was the worst interview. She was like, it was
Really?
terrible. Yeah, she was like, it was awful. But then, like, at the end of the day, she did it because she was like, oh, well, this will be good, you know,
Yeah.
promotion, opportunity to grow a little bit, whatever. And then it ended up not happening because it was a mistake to do it. And then
Right.
we had a very short conversation, and I was like, well, I did a show. I did Lucas Marino. Do you know LC Lucas Marino?
Yep. Hmm.
He has a wonderful program like this, similar kind of thing. The suspense is killing me. It's called, and
I like
like,
the title.
oh my god, it's great. So like, does he have a bazillion followers or
No.
people who listen? No, but you know what? It was an awesome conversation, and it was like one of the best ones. And like me and you right now, this is one of the best ones because we're just having a conversation. It's
Yeah.
natural. It feels real. You know what I mean?
And then we're going to go into Broadway shows because we had a whole conversation about Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
Oh yeah. I'm a Broadway guy. Like I love it.
Me too.
I just saw The Shark Is Not Working on Broadway, which is the show about the
I
making of
miss it so
Jaws.
much. I miss it so much.
It's so good. Like The
I,
Shark Is Not Working is so great. I saw one but right before COVID, my wife and I went and saw Phantom, and
before it closed.
yeah, well, no, before COVID closed everything.
Right.
Um, and I wept openly in the theater. I couldn't. It was so much for me, and I was like,
Thank you. Not the only person that does that.
no, I'll
Okay,
cry.
that makes me feel so much better.
I'll cry all day. And I'll watch something and I'll burst into tears. Like
Yeah.
I wear my emotions on my sleeve, like Ian in the book, man. Like I am all about it.
But I love that cuz like we need more representation of men who are like that cuz I've met more men in real life that are more emotional. And to
Yeah.
not say that as a bad thing.
No, yeah. If we're not is the fan and yeah, Phantom of the Opera. Yep, the Broadway show. But there's like something about being in touch with like the real emotion that I think makes you appreciate people more. Um, like I've only seen one of my best friends. I've only seen him cry once,
Mhm.
and it was when his grandpa passed away.
I
And
was going to ask was it a death cuz that's
yeah,
usually what happens.
yeah. And he called me crying, and I saw him crying. It was during COVID, and he is like very much a stiff upper lip kind of guy, but he's also very quick to tell you he loves you.
Yeah,
And we've always like as like best friends and stuff like in my
that's
best friend
awesome.
group we've always been very quick to be like hey I love you
That's
I
awesome.
you know and like we always kind of part with saying hey I love you we give each other kisses
Yeah.
like we're very we have this and it's funny because my wife we were watching The Exorcist and there's a part in The Exorcist where Lieutenant Kinderman takes the arm of Father Karras and they're walking arm in arm and you don't see men do that.
No.
And my
Not
wife,
anymore.
no. And my wife was like, you know, you and Chris do that. My best friend is who I'm talking about. You and Chris
That's
do that
awesome.
sometimes. And I was like, we do? And she's like, yeah, sometimes he'll take your arm, sometimes you take his, but the two of you walk like that sometimes. And
That's
there's,
awesome.
yeah, she's like, there's like a really cute, like thing between the two of you, and I'm like, I just love him. Like he's like my brother.
Yeah.
You know, it's just
Friends are the family that we choose.
one
It's
hundred
an old
percent.
it's an old school saying, but I believe it.
No, it's absolutely spot on. It's like it's just that's how it is. That's just and like if you're not telling your closest friends that you love them, God only knows what happens. Like when I was in
Yeah.
high school, when I was a senior in high school, 9/11 happened, and I remember thinking like, oh my God, like
Yeah.
we could all die. You
Yeah.
know, so like that was kind of
And
when I realized like I don't ever want to leave my friends not knowing
yeah.
that I love them.
And we grew up around the same area, so, like,
Yeah,
it it's so interesting to, like, move down to where I live now and, like, hear people's reaction to 9/11, like, when I had friends' parents that died that day.
yeah, yeah. Same.
Because I like, my dad worked in Philadelphia, so
Okay.
and it was a whole thing, like,
Yeah.
hearing my boyfriend who grew up here, his reaction to it versus to, like, "No, but I knew people."
Mhm.
Yeah,
It's
it's
crazy.
crazy.
It's like the last. I look at that as like kind of the last generation defining thing.
Yeah,
I mean, COVID is a generation defining thing too.
especially for my younger siblings, yeah,
Yeah, 100. Like
for the
all of
generations under.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just it's strange to think about, but like that really, I think that's what really caused it with my friends and I, because we all had this revelation like, hey,
Yeah.
we'll be dead tomorrow.
Mhm.
Let's not leave something unsaid with each other.
Yeah.
And we honestly, 22 years or 20. Well, we've been friends longer, so we've been friends
That's
23, 24
fantastic.
years. Yeah, so been going strong.
But have you, since we did have that conversation about Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, which is
Yes,
fantastic, did you see it on Broadway?
I did not see it on Broadway. I
Okay.
wish.
I saw it for my 21st birthday. That's how long ago it was on
Oh
Broadway.
my god,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah. And
And
then
you
I
loved
got
it.
glitter in my hair and couldn't get out of my hair for, like, a week and a half.
Oh,
It was
I would love to
great.
get glitter in my
It
hair.
was fantastic. Like, and then I became friends with one of the actors who was on in the show. So, like, watching him just sing, I believe it was Britney Spears,
Okay,
and it was just hysterical. I'm like,
awesome, so awesome.
to watch my friend walk around in heels, I'm like, "This is just funny."
Yeah,
Like, this is awesome.
great.
He's a 6'2" man, and he's walking around in heels. I love it so much.
That's something that's really that, and so like I'm very into drag. Like I love drag. I
Me
love
too.
drag before like everything about it. Like
Mhm.
literally there. Oh wait, it's over. It's wait, hang on, let me move because I'm confused. That right there.
And I do it all the time. You're good.
So that right there. That's Adore Delano
I love it.
from RuPaul's Drag Race because she's my favorite queen. But there's like all the drag queens are tall. They're all
Yes.
tall. They're all like 6'2" or 6 foot and above. Like I remember I met Sharon Needles, and
No way.
Sharon Needles was like huge, like gigantically tall.
Really?
Yeah, and I was like, that's crazy. And then I looked up, and I think Sharon Needles is like 6'1", 6'2".
And they
But
walk better in heels than I do.
100%, I could never. I would die. All I want to do is learn how to do a death drop in the worst way. I have the worst knees imaginable,
Me
so it
too.
would actually be a death drop if I tried.
And then you wouldn't be able to get back up.
No, I'd be dead. My bones would shatter into a million pieces.
Ah, and I know that you're a huge wine lover like
I am.
myself.
Yeah.
When I was in college, I worked, I have a public relations and journalism degree,
Oh, nice.
and I used to work for the New Jersey Wine Growers Association. I
Oh,
did
that's
PR for
cool.
them, so it was the greatest job when you were in your early 20s because they paid you, plus they gave you cases of wine. It was fantastic.
Oh,
Highly
that's.
recommend when you're a broke college student. But, like,
I,
I love wine now, like, I drink it any type of wine, like, I
oh yeah.
I all for it.
I've never been like a wine snob. Like I know some people who are like, oh well, I only drink this, blah 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 blah.
I'll drink a $5 bottle of wine, I don't care. If it
One
tastes good, I don't
hundred,
care.
100%. And it's so I had this is years ago. This is when, and I'll name the bottle. I don't mind naming it. I think it's the worst. Um, I had a bottle of The Prisoner when it first came out. It was like it was setting the world on fire, and was like, oh my god, this is
Mhm.
one of the greatest bottles of wine of all time. And I was like, all right, well. And
Garbage?
I talked to a buddy of mine. And I was like, let's split it because it was like $100 something.
Yeah, they weren't cheap.
Yeah. And I was like, let's get it and try it. Everybody says it's so good. Maybe they're
Yeah.
right. So we get it, and it was awful. It was one of the worst bottles of wine I've ever had in my life. We each drank one glass, and then we dumped the rest of it down the sink.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
we literally opened a $12 bottle of 19 Crimes, and it
Mhm.
was light years better. So, like, there's
It's so
nothing.
crazy.
It is. It really is nuts. And like some bottles really do get better with age. Like
Yeah.
that's not a joke. Like they
Yeah.
do, you know. But like I opened one the other day that was 10 years old. I had been aging it for 10 years and it was awful. It was
Really?
awful. Yep. Yep. And
Wow.
it was worth around $300 $400 depending on where you get it. I didn't pay that 10 years ago when
I
I
was
bought
gonna
it.
say, did you really pay that?
No. The most I have paid like 700 for a bottle of wine. That's the most I've ever paid
Okay.
for one bottle. Um,
My
but-
parents would kill me if I spent that much, but
yeah, mine was meant to be. So I bought an expensive bottle to celebrate getting my master's degree. When I finally finished, I got my master's, and I was like, now we're gonna open
congratulations.
the
That's a
bottle.
lot.
Thank you. I have 3 masters now, but
And I want to go back for my master's.
I mean, here it hasn't paid off for me until now.
Okay.
Like this is the
That's
first
fair.
year that it's actually paid off, and I've been teaching for 7 years. Took 7 years for it to actually pay off.
That's crazy.
Yep, it is.
And you're probably still paying off those loans, aren't you?
Oh yeah, they
Yeah.
just started. They just went back into repayment this month.
Ugh.
Thanks.
Ugh.
Yeah. Nothing would make me. If any film producers out there would like to buy the rights to any of my things, essentially you would just be getting me out of student loan debt. So thank you.
My boyfriend actually wants to pick your brain because he wants to get into audiobook narration.
Oh, cool.
So he wants to. He might bug you on Twitter and
Yeah.
pick your brain because he has a form. He formerly was on radio.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So he
very
wants
cool.
to like transition into audiobooks and stuff like that.
Awesome. Yeah. No, that'd be. I'm all for it. I'm all about trying to help whoever I can.
And I want to pick your brain because I meant to talk about this earlier, but it's okay. your press, Spooky House Press.
Yeah.
I want to know. Okay, you have a day job. You're a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do it all?
I don't know. Like, so literally today, I was supposed to do something for Spooky House Press. I had some files I needed to upload or whatever. Did that get done? Nope. Because I was revising something today,
Right.
and then I finished revising it. I was pretty much writing and revising for about 4 hours, and then I got up and I was like, I got to take a break. And then I went and had some lunch with the wife and hung out with her. We watched some Trixie Mattel and Katya on YouTube while I ate lunch.
Yes.
So
yes.
Yeah, so I did that, and then I was just so tired. I laid down for like 40 minutes, and then I got on here with you. So like that didn't get done. Will it get done tomorrow? Maybe. Will it get done on Monday? No.
Because it just boggles my brain because you have so many things in the works, plus things you're promoting, plus running a press, plus you're a teacher. I'm like, please teach me your ways because I can't figure it out.
I think like it's a lot, and it's so last year, basically from November of 2022 up until I guess it was August of this year, we published 6 books.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's awesome. We are very lucky to have a lot of really great material to work with and a lot of really talented authors and stuff. But the thing that taught me was spreading myself too thin.
Yeah.
While I've got StokerCon to go to and the award ceremonies and all that, plus putting out the Vile thing we created. With I didn't put that out, my publisher did, but still it was a lot. Doing a tour, going to different places, stuff like that, like really took its toll. And I kind of realized like I need to scale back. So this year, 2023 and 2024, 2023, basically in 2024, we're going to be putting out 4 books.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So our numbers are going to go down in terms of how much we're putting out, but I just don't have as much time. And then after that, going into 2025, we're going to be putting out maybe 2 books.
Okay.
Um, and then after that, we really are going to have to sort of, it's going to have to be on like a project by project
Yeah.
basis with Spooky House, because my own writing is picking up a lot, and I have to kind of like, I really have to look at my own stuff because that's going to take a lot of my time.
Right.
If I could, if we were at a point where I could hire somebody to like
Mhm.
manage and run the press and me just be publisher or whatever and like have the final say, that would be great. But unfortunately, we're not at that point yet.
If you ever get to that point, I have a background in it.
Oh, well, I will keep you in mind.
Yes, please.
Yeah, no, I just I just don't have a lot of bandwidth. It sucks. I
Yeah.
wish I could
That's
club
why
more.
I'm like, because I see you do so much, and I'm like, how? And I don't mean that in like any bad way. I'm just I
Huh?
want to know because I like, and plus a lot of your books are coming out from different presses. It's not just you working on your stuff with Spooky House,
Yeah, yeah.
which you see a lot of authors do just to have more say,
Self-publishing, yeah,
yeah, like
which is
say
great.
in what they do. Yeah.
You know, it works really well. Like Adam Neville, all of his stuff is self-published, and he's got a Netflix deal. Like
Does
it's
he?
awesome.
That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah. The Ritual on
Okay.
Netflix. That's him.
I did.
Uh,
Oh my, now that's what I have to watch.
yeah,
I
oh, it's
didn't
awesome.
realize that was him.
It's so good. It's so good. I have a question. Don't know if you've answered this one yet or not, but which book was your favorite to write? I really loved writing the Vile Thing. I took my time during it. I wrote it like at the halfway point of the pandemic, and that was, I had a lot of time to really work on it and dive into it and stuff. So I had a lot of fun writing that. But I also had a lot of fun writing Curse of the Cobman, which is out now.
I can't wait to read it.
It is
I'm so
bloody
excited.
ridiculous. It's very different than the Vile Thing, that's for
Yeah.
sure. Like two different sides
Hmm.
of horror there. But yeah, that one was a lot of fun to write, just because it's so it's so gory and so over the top. My wife is reading it now. She's like 3/4 of the way done, and she was like, "Oh yeah, this is very different than the Vile Thing for
But I
sure."
like that though, like,
Yeah,
because I'm like, well, if you didn't like the Vile Things, maybe try this. Like,
yeah,
if I'm like, because
one
I
hundred percent.
recommended you to a couple friends that are horror movie buffs, and I'm
Mhm.
like, you'll love it. Trust
Yeah.
me.
No, that's awesome. I appreciate it, and that's exactly it. Like, I don't ever want to write the same thing like over and over and over again, or like the same style or anything over and over and over again. That would be, then I wouldn't do it, you know.
Yeah,
So, but
and
there,
I like getting your process because I'm an aspiring writer as well, so it's like always interesting to get different people's processes.
yeah, yeah. I write. I can tell you this. Like, for me, I find that like I write best in the morning.
Okay.
Because I'm a teacher, those morning hours are spent in the classroom or commuting to
Right.
work. So
Unless you
like
get up at
it's
3 in the morning.
right, which I'm
Yeah.
never gonna do on
No.
purpose. Anyway. But like, so that's prohibitive to me, because like I can't get anything done during the week at all when
Right.
school's in session. Now, if my wife is like, "Oh, I'm going to go visit my friend in Minnesota, or I'm going to go out to dinner with friends or whatever," and I get a couple hours in the
Right.
evening, I can maybe get some stuff done, whether for Spooky House or for my own writing. Um, but like really the only time I have to write is on the weekends, and it's always in the
Okay.
morning. So like I said today, like I woke up, I did some work, had some lunch, was gonna go back and do more work, but I was too tired. But like
You need to
tomorrow
sleep somewhere in between all that.
at some point, right? Like yeah, but I'm always thinking about like squirreling away the time to get my own writing done. Like tomorrow morning I'll be able to probably, well no, tomorrow morning I'm doing an interview on Sirius XM, which is like crazy.
Ooh,
Yeah, that just like happened this past week.
really? That,
Yeah, yeah,
that's
it's
awesome.
the Dave Nemo show
Okay.
on, I think it's Sirius. I want to say it's like 166 or 146. I don't remember.
Okay. I'm gonna be borrowing my boyfriend's subscription then for this. I'm gonna be
Excellent.
like, hey, give me the password. Give it to me.
But yeah, they called me today to confirm and everything.
That's
So that's,
awesome.
I'm gonna be doing that tomorrow morning. But like, I have the time on the weekends, and but like I'm also very lucky in that like I'm not like a lot of writers who, when I sit down, it's a struggle to get 500 words out or whatever. Like
Yeah.
when I sit down, I'm good for at least 2,000 to 5,000 words.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, So I'm very lucky with that. So like writing a middle grade book doesn't
I
take
wanted
me
to
that
pivot
long.
into that because you
Yeah,
go from horror to middle grade.
yeah,
Please explain.
yeah. So the book that I won the Bram Stoker Award for was a young adult book. So then writing for like middle grade is just going a little lower. It's really just one, grade section lower.
Right.
And there's only, with writing young adult, there's really no rules specifically. But with writing middle grade, there are rules, and the rules are typically like no cursing, no drugs, no sex,
Right.
which is fun. I like having those rules in place. So I like writing scary stuff for little kids. It's like you can be bloody, you can be gory, you can be scary. Like you can look at something like The Clackety by Laura Senf. There's literally a character who like collects toes and like fingers
Yeah.
and stuff in that. It's
Like
a
we
gnarly
all
book.
grew up on Goosebumps. Like,
Yeah,
come on.
100%. I was watching Are You Afraid of the Dark the other night on
Yeah.
Paramount, and like not for nothing, but like the tale of the ghastly grinner is terrifying.
I remember that. Yep.
Like that episode is scary as hell.
Yeah.
So like we can be as scary as we want with middle grade. We just have to remember that like the kids have to be like 13.
Yeah.
They could be like 14 maybe. Um, and you can't curse. No cursing, no sex, no drugs.
It's
It's
not that
pretty
hard.
it's not. It's really not, and it's fun. Like the I have two middle grade books that are going to be coming out from two different publishers,
Okay.
and
And they're not connected at all?
they're
They're
not
two separate.
connected.
Okay.
No. The one I turned in today is called "There's Something Sinister in Center Field," and that's for
I love
Cemetery
it.
Gates. And so I got to combine two things I love: horror and baseball. And I kind of wrote this like really dark story about a bunch of middle school kids playing little league ball against a team of ghosts,
Okay.
and it was just a lot of fun. And I got to play with gender because the coach's daughter has to play to fill in the gap of left because one of the boys is hurt or whatever. And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to like play in that world. And then the other one is coming from Weird House, the same people who put out Curse of the Codman. It's called The Sleepy Hollow Gang.
You
And
don't have to say anymore.
all right.
Automatic purchase. Automatic purchase. Automatic purchase.
I just saw the cover of it, and the cover is like exactly what I was hoping it would be. In the same way that the Cobman cover is exactly what I hoped it would
I
be.
love that cover.
What is my favorite book of the series from a writing perspective? It's about to release the Chronicles of Narnia. Oh, that's a tough one. I haven't read Chronicles of Narnia in forever, but I would probably say the first book.
Yeah.
The first book is probably my
That's the
favorite.
only one that I really remember.
Yeah, I feel like yeah. I remember enjoying all of them. But
Yeah.
the Goosebumps book series is up there with Are You Afraid of the Dark for sure.
Yeah.
But I remember the first book more, and just like the whole world opening up to them and like them experiencing it the first time. It all feels very lush. It's almost like the first book in the Harry Potter series is like, oh, we're discovering this world for the first time.
Yeah.
We're learning all about it. Like that's what's exciting about stuff like that, I think.
That's what's so cool with having younger siblings. Like my little brother is 9.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I get to show him books that I grew up with.
Yeah.
Like, it's so cool.
Yeah.
I'm like, yay. Like
I
he's
didn't
starting to get
have
into like Goosebumps and stuff.
Yeah, see, I didn't have that growing up because, like, we had the Scholastic Book Fair. Thank
Yeah.
God.
I miss it so much. They don't do it
It
anymore.
was so cool.
It makes me
Like,
so sad.
they had, I remember going to Scholastic Book Fair, and my dad would give me like $50 and be
Yeah.
like, get whatever you want, go nuts. And my dad would read to me every night. I still have one of the books that he would read to me. It's on the shelf behind me. Like,
I have one that my grandmother, who's in the chat, used to read to me. She doesn't remember reading it, but she used to, and I found it at a used bookstore.
That's awesome. That is awesome. I love that. I just, because I guess I grew up with a dad who like read to me every night, that like fostered a love of reading. So I read a lot. Here's the thing. I haven't been able to do as much reading for enjoyment as I would like to, because I've been reading a lot of stuff to blurb for people.
Right.
So like that's like the one thing that I have to scale back on. I feel bad I always feel bad saying this to people that I can't do something for them because
I know, I feel so bad because like people send me stuff and I'm like, but I can't get to it. I'm
yeah.
sorry.
And see, you know what's funny? Like I never
And I'm just a reviewer. Like I don't.
yeah.
I'm not an author.
Did you get my email today with Chris?
Yours?
Yeah.
Did I?
I sent Cobman out to reviewers today.
Oh, you did? No, I
Yeah.
haven't gotten your email. I'll have to look.
All right, yeah. If you didn't, just shoot me your email and I'll send it to you again. But
Okay,
um
absolutely.
I feel bad because like I want to help everybody that I can, but also as like an author sending stuff out, I know how busy everybody is. And so like I always kind of make the point to say like, hey, if you can't get to it right now, it's not the end of the world to me. So like I appreciate it. Like whenever you get to it, you get to it, you know?
Right. Like that's not like I I had to take down a review because one of the authors got like gave
Faulty.
me a bunch of pushbacks in my statements, and I'm like, but the review's not for you, sir.
Right. Right.
Like
No.
it's not, and it wasn't anything bad. I gave a list of trigger warnings because I know some people that have those
Yeah.
triggers. So
Yeah.
I wasn't saying the book was bad. I was just giving trigger warnings.
I don't so like on the the trigger warning discussion always happens on social media and stuff. I don't like, if people need them, that's great.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you should have them. I know that as the author, I don't feel comfortable saying what the trigger warnings are because I
Right.
don't know what's going to trigger or upset somebody.
Right.
So like,
I try to just give like the broad strokes.
yeah, like I think that's a really good way to put it. Like, if you did that for my book, I would not
Hmm.
care. Like,
Yeah.
I'm
That's
not
what I
so
said.
yeah.
And it was for another book that I actually read by Stephen Graham Jones. I'm like, he liked the review. He had no problem with it. Why are you having an issue with it, sir? like,
So weird. Like,
like it's just so like I got attacked on Twitter because I put trigger warnings. I was like,
that's bizarre. Like, it's not.
people are just so weird sometimes.
People are weird. People are rude, and I think a lot of the times, authors and creatives in general can be a little. And even though Stephen Graham Jones is not the one who got upset about the review, because I feel like he probably feels the same way that I do about stuff, but like
He doesn't care. I've
he
had a couple conversations with him. He doesn't care.
doesn't care. But like, I don't think artists should be so precious about their work that like they feel the need that it's like, oh well, this is trigger warning proof, and this is like
The
critical.
biggest thing is telling the biggest thing for me was people were saying that it was a spoiler. I'm like, but it's a very triggering thing for a lot of people. So
Yeah, I don't. That's ridiculous. And also, like, not for nothing, that book is 3 years old now.
yeah, and literally it just happened like a month and a half ago. I read it 3 years ago.
And like, so like so it's funny, like you put the spoiler tag up for the Vile thing. In
Yeah,
my mind, the Vile thing came out in April. So like, if people are worried about spoilers, like, get the book earlier. Like,
right,
like
right.
just the way
Or
it
like
is.
don't read reviews that have spoiler tags. That's why they're
Right.
spoiler tags.
Yeah.
I
Like
don't.
Goodreads is really good about that. So is Amazon. Even Amazon
Yeah,
allows the spoiler tag in their stuff. But
exactly.
I don't think that I don't think, and again, like I would much prefer my publisher or another editor or somebody put the trigger warnings for my stuff. I just don't know. I'm
Right.
not,
And you
because
don't want to
nothing
miss
bothers me.
something and then get in trouble for not saying that it was a trigger when it's not. It's a
Right.
very slippery slope sometimes.
Right. Like I'm not a huge fan of like when a character, how do I put this? When have you seen the movie what the hell is it called? It's not the stranger, Funny Games. Have you seen Funny Games?
No.
Okay, so there's this movie, Funny Games. It's a home invasion movie,
Okay.
and it's just like it's needlessly cruel. Like there's no point to it. Like and I guess that in the end that is the point because violence is often senseless and blah blah blah
Right.
blah.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
like when I don't like needlessly cruel things that happen to characters in stuff like Game of Thrones was kind of famous for this, like needlessly horrible things would happen
And
to certain
needlessly
characters.
horrible, like I see it a lot in a lot of fantasies and like needlessly horrible things specifically to women. Like
Hmm.
I don't think it's necessary that every bad guy does horrible things to women. Like,
Yeah. But it's weird. It's like a weird thing. So like I don't like that necessarily. I just don't. That rubs me the wrong way. There's a specific word for it, and I'm struggling to remember what the term is. But
the
um,
gratuitousness of it.
I guess yeah. Like you can look at like Rob Zombie's House of a Thousand Corpses.
I love Rob Zombie so much.
Yeah, I love
I
Rob
grew up
Zombie
on his
too.
music, so
There's like there's that one sequence where like the older like the dad or whatever, and it pulls back, and it's at that long prolonged shot, and then he
yeah.
gets shot in the head. That's a little much for me. Like that's
Yeah.
and it's
That's
not
why I
even
think I can read it more than watch it. Like I can read
yeah
something very violent, but
yeah
watching it bothers me more.
yeah yeah yeah. I don't love torture porn stuff. I don't love needlessly cruel things
Yeah.
happening
Like
for no
cruel
reason.
things happen in your books, but you don't write it in like it's just happening to move the plot along kind
Right,
of thing.
right. And I remember I was watching Halloween Ends, which I have a poster of over there. It's like that's my favorite Halloween movie after the original. And like everybody,
Is that the last one?
that's the last one,
Okay.
yeah, that nobody
I always
liked
get
except for
lost.
me. Apparently. But nobody in that movie dies that doesn't deserve it. And
Yeah.
it's the first time. It's the first time in a Halloween movie where the people who die 1000% have it coming.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting. Like I've never seen a slasher movie like that. And normally that's just a revenge movie,
Yeah.
but in this case, it's very much just like no. It just so happens that everybody who's getting it
Was awful.
is
Was
pretty awful.
awful.
There's one person who dies in it that is actually a good person, but his death is accidental in that movie.
Yeah. See, I loved Game of Thrones, but again, I read it before I watched it, so it
Yeah.
didn't bother me as much. But watching it was a lot different. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm okay.
Yeah.
Like,
Like I couldn't watch The Red Wedding again.
no.
I can't watch a woman with a very pregnant stomach get stabbed in the stomach.
Mm-mm.
I'm good. Thanks.
I watched it once because I knew, but like I didn't know at the same time. I was just like, oh, this is that episode. Okay,
Yeah, what is
we're
it called?
going here.
The Reigns of Castamere is the name of the episode. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. That show just really fell off the rails for
but
me
I
in a
love the
big way.
book so much.
Yeah,
Like, the
sure.
first 3 are like some of my favorite books of all time.
It would be awesome if you would finish them.
You said it, not me. Yes.
Like just land the plane, my man. You know.
Like, you're getting older too, so please finish them.
Right. That's a really great comment about Tolkien, and that's a really great comment because I think again, like I think Tolkien's stance would essentially be like, really, Lord of the Rings is an anti-war
Yeah.
story to begin with, and as a veteran and author who writes in that, he would be very much against like the gratuitousness of violence. Even like if you look at the movie, the trilogy, right, which is like one of my favorite things. By the way, it's the greatest movie trilogy of all time. There's nothing superior to it.
I'm going to admit something. I just watched it for the first time this year.
That's fine.
Like my friends were like, "What?" I'm like, I didn't grow up. My parents weren't fantasy readers, so I didn't read the trilogy till last year because one of my best friends was like, "You have to read it." I'm like, "Okay."
I read it in like 6th grade, going into 7th grade. I read the trilogy the first time. No, obviously I read The Hobbit too, but like
I actually like the Hobbit book more than the trilogy. I might get canceled for that, but
no, that's perfectly reasonable. But I think like there's the Lord of the Rings trilogy as it exists. You know, the Fellowship, Two Towers, and Return of the King is like, even though there is a good amount of action, it's never gratuitous. There's never any like, the only revelry in the chaos that is between Gimli and Legolas just being silly, being like, "Hey, I've got like 800, I've got 12." Like, but even then, like, the orcs deserve it. You know,
they're
like,
awful.
they're beings of pure evil. Like, they deserve it. There's no like, oh well, there's some gray area or whatever. I love Lord of the Rings so much. My wife loves Lord of the Rings so much, every New Year's Eve we do the extended trilogy for the whole day, and my wife makes a multi-course Hobbit feast.
Oh my god. I love
All
it.
all foods from Middle Earth. All foods from Middle Earth.
Do you have the cookbook?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I got it for her. Yeah. Only fantasy film to win Best Picture with 16 Oscars. Yeah, that
That's
rules.
bananas.
Yeah, as it should. Honestly, like in all seriousness, like I know we've got some hardcore fantasy people in the house, so whatever. I'm not placating them. I firmly believe this. There is no greater battle scene in the history of cinema than the Battle of Helm's Deep
But
in
it's
the
so
history of
weird.
movies.
Like watching the film version versus reading the paragraph and a half that gets covered in the book, you're like, wait, what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm like, wait, but it's like 45 minutes in the book. In the
yeah,
movie, like, I
yeah.
don't understand.
It's crazy, and like even though one of my favorite characters dies in the movie and he doesn't die in the book, at that scene,
Hmm.
it's still like okay, like this still rules. Like there's
And
nothing
Sam
better.
over Frodo every day. People can come for me. Sam is better
Oh
than Frodo.
no, my mom, my mom, my wife is a big Sam over Frodo
Yeah,
gal.
yeah.
So I get it. I get it.
And I just
Sean
love,
Astin's tough. He's tough to pop.
and
He's tough to pop.
I love Sean Astin because I grew up on. This is gonna so age me, but my parents were teenagers in the 80s, so like I grew up on Rudy.
Oh yeah,
Like,
Rudy's
do you
great.
know, like that kind of stuff. Like I'm like, of course I love him. I love him and everything.
There's that there's that great meme that's like the whole Fellowship. It's like oh, the Fellowship at 100% strength, the
Yeah,
Fellowship at 99% strength, and it's Sam and Aragorn.
yeah. Though I still love Viggo Mortensen to this day.
What
I love him
there's
a
there's
lot.
nothing to not like. Like the guy is awesome. Like
Yeah.
everything about him is awesome. He's and like the Lord of the Rings trilogy. This is not an area I expected to go, but I'm glad we went here. But the Lord of the Rings trilogy is like one of those rare times where you hear nothing bad
About
about
anybody.
anybody or anything going, and
Yep.
they all still talk and they all still love each other.
And they all still hang out.
They all still hang out.
That's awesome.
Like that's awesome. Like Vigo took home a bunch of horses. He gave one of the horses to the stunt woman who doubled Arwen. Like,
Yeah.
what is there to not like? The whole
And
country of New Zealand was employed all those
yeah.
years. Like,
And I liked him before I found out about the movies because his child has the same disability that I do.
oh really?
So he does a lot of things for people, charities that help people with cerebral palsy.
Oh wow, I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
So
That's
I was like,
awesome.
so that's how I first knew of the name, and then I was like, oh, he's an actor, and then I
Yeah,
went down a complete rabbit hole of
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. He's the actor who gives the most rousing speech. One of the most rousing speeches in movie history. Yeah,
Yes.
just Return of the King. Like
Yeah.
it's hard to top that. It's just so damn good. And I love my wife and I always talk about like, oh well, if the War of the Ring was going on, where would you want to live? Like where whatever. And I'm always like, I want to live. I would live in Rohan.
Oh,
I
I
want
like
to live
that.
in Rohan. Because it's just like it's in the hills. It's in the sort of the plains and everything. It's beautiful. I'd have long, beautiful blonde hair. Like it would
You
be.
would ride a horse bare,
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I'd
bare,
be
and
I'd,
just.
I'd be one of the Rohirrim. It would be dope. I'd get to hang out with Carl Urban. Like there was, and my wife is always like, "Well, I'd be in Hobbiton," and I'm like, "Well, why? Like all they do is eat and drink all day." And then I was like, "Oh,
And
well, wait,
have second breakfast.
and they yeah, and elevensies."
Yeah.
Whereas, despite the crankiness of elves and dwarves, New Zealand's parliament
But
legally
Bilbo's
remained.
awesome.
Oh yeah,
Like Bilbo's
really
awesome.
changed the name of the county to Middle Earth for the premiere of the film. That rules.
That's awesome.
That is so cool.
I knew I was going to get you happy, Jen, once we started talking about Lord of the Rings. She's one of the reasons I read it last year.
Oh, awesome! Yeah, that's great. I mean, in all honesty, it's like it's just perfect. Like the Lord of
Yeah.
the Rings is perfect. I'm not so like I enjoy fantasy, but like for me, there's no fantasy better than the Lord of the Rings. Like nothing will ever be as good. Nothing could. I mean, Chronicles of Narnia is wonderful, but Lord of the Rings is superior. I think.
Yeah. I just wish I read it earlier because I feel like I would have loved it more if I
Yeah,
read it earlier.
Yeah.
That's my only complaint. Not complaint, but like critique.
Yeah, it's a regret. You know, you just wish
Yeah.
you read it early. That's all. I wish I had read, anything by Stephen earlier. I haven't really read a lot of Stephen King. I wish I'd read more of it growing up. I've only read 2 books by him. So
Yeah, I seem to I'm not a huge fan of his horror books, but I love his like non-horror stuff.
yeah,
Like
his fantasy stuff is great.
his The Green Mile, I love.
Hmm.
I grew up on the movie Shawshank Redemption.
Yep.
That's still one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time. That will never change.
Yeah.
And my you're gonna learn some weird stuff about me, but my father was obsessed with is still obsessed with the assassination of JFK.
Okay.
So like, I fell down a rabbit hole with 11/22/63.
Yep. Science fiction.
I was
Well,
like, because I was actually I took a class in college about the JFK assassination, so that was textbook reading, I guess you would
okay.
call. Like,
Cool.
I never had never had a class where you were forced to read Stephen King.
That's awesome.
It was awesome.
Yeah. I've only read On Writing and Thinner. That's
Okay,
all. And I love both. So
I
I
want
have
to
all the
try. I
great
want to try
traditions.
the Gunslinger.
That's a lot. Reading
That's
all
what
the-
I've been told. That's why I haven't done it yet.
You know what though? Like honestly, like that's fantasy.
Yeah,
Like doing the Dark Tower. The Dark Tower's fantasy, and it's epic fantasy, and it's
it just seems
awesome.
really weird,
Yeah,
which I'm okay with if I
yeah,
know that going in.
yeah. No, that's a great challenge to set for yourself.
But I'm going down the rabbit hole of Stephen Graham Jones and a bunch of stuff for Grady Hendrix. Like,
Yeah,
my best friend's Exorcism is one of my favorites.
my wife loves Grady Hendrix stuff. He's one of the only New York horror writers that I haven't met.
He seems lovely.
Yeah, he
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 just
goes
seems
into
like he would be
like
awesome.
he's friends with my friend Sasha, who was at my event last night. They go out and get pedicures together and stuff all the
He
time.
just
They
seems amazing. Like, I want to have a
Yeah.
drink with him.
Oh
Like,
my god, same. And
he just sounds like
wife,
so much fun.
his
And he
wife.
always wears a 3-piece suit, which I respect.
Oh yeah. And so it's just and like whatever parties he has are awesome because his wife is like a very famous chef here in New
Yeah,
York City. So like
it's crazy.
yeah.
And then because the first book I read from him was the Southern Book Club's Guide to.
Hmm.
I always mess up the title because it's long.
Yeah.
And then I looked at the publisher, and the publisher was right down the street from where I used to work in Philadelphia.
Oh, that's fine. Quirk.
I was like, random.
Is it Quirk Books? Is that who it
Yeah,
was?
yeah. I was like, that's literally right down the street from where I used to work.
That's so cool. Yeah, they put out a lot of great stuff. They put out some of Clay Chapman's stuff too, and Clay's.
I've never read anything by him. Where would you recommend starting?
I would say start with Ghost Eaters.
Okay.
Ghost Eaters is unbelievably good. He has a new one out. What Kind of Mother? I haven't read it yet. Don't tell him. Nobody tell him.
Okay.
But yeah, Ghost Eaters is just unbelievably good.
I can't wait. I'm so excited. Like, it's just weird. I didn't read horror for a very long time because I'm a scaredy cat. I will admit it. I'm a scaredy cat. But like, during COVID, I just fell down. Like, I found Stephen Graham Jones. I found Grady Hendrix. Like, the comedic horror genre, if you want to call it a genre, I prefer that than just the doom and gloom of something awful.
I'm not a huge fan of like the edgelordy.
Yep.
Gloom.
I hate it in fantasy too. It irritates me so much in fantasy.
Yeah. Oh, my wife just texted me.
Oh no! Am I keeping you too long?
I will have to go in like 10
No
or 15
problem.
minutes.
No problem. So
I'm sorry.
no, you're fine. If you don't mind coming back, because I'm sure I'll be reading more of your work, and we can discuss more if you're up for it.
I'll come back whenever. I'm always down. I love it.
Oops. Of course, now my computer decides this.
I have yet to read a horror or thriller that has made me feel some sort of thrill. I'm all open for X. I would say like, if you really want something that's gonna make you think, I would say read the Only Good Indians because it deals with a lot.
That's one of my favorite books of all time.
Yeah, I would say
Bar none.
certainly. I don't know. I would probably put a top 10 for me. I loved it so much, but like,
And it's different horror. It was more like folk horror, like you said, like your stuff. That's why I think it reminded me so much of Stephen Graham Jones when I was reading it, because I'm like, this is how I like my horror, more like folk and away from realness,
gore,
but not
all that
away.
stuff. Yeah, I would definitely say check out Stephen Graham Jones is the Only Good Indians. I would say look at Grady Hendrix has a newer book out that's about
How to Sell a Haunted House.
how to sell a haunted house. I would definitely check that out.
There's creepy dolls in that, so if that's an issue, don't read it.
Yeah, don't read it if you're freaked out by creepy dolls.
I had to take a break from that one. I was like, eh.
Yeah,
Especially because it was a clown doll. I was like, no, I'm good.
You might enjoy like some short story stuff. So I would say John Langan's Saphira and Other Betrayals is a really great collection of short fiction. There's a lot of really good stuff. I spent Dispatches to the King.
I really want to read. I haven't picked it up yet, but it's a short story collection by Jordan Peele, The Out There Screaming.
Yeah, I just saw that at the store last night.
Because I love N.K. Jemisin, and she's apparently in there somewhere. Yep. And Tananarive Due, apparently. So
yeah.
Yes, anything with Tananarive Due, I'm there.
It's like a who's who of awesome.
And I love Jordan Peele anyway. Like, his horror movies I can handle.
So Clay Chapman wrote Wendell and Wild, which was produced by Jordan Peele for Netflix.
Really?
Yeah, so you could check that out. That's a Clay McLeod Chapman.
Definitely.
Yeah. Slowly making his way into your favorite. Yeah, Grady's awesome. He's great.
Fantastic.
I would very much recommend. He wrote a movie called Mohawk. I think it's called Mohawk. I might be getting that title wrong, but it's directed by Ted. I want to say it's Giagosian. I'm probably saying that wrong, but it's a horror movie about Native American. About indigenous culture. I think it's called Mohawk, and Grady Hendrix wrote it. It's really good.
That's awesome. Yeah. But I don't want to keep you too long because we did spend longer than I thought we would. I thought for some reason, I thought you were really busy. So I was like, I feel bad taking up all your time. I'm like, you're so busy. But I would love to have you come back and discuss more of your work as I go down the rabbit hole of all the stuff you've written.
Yeah, that'd be great. I would love to.
But thank you so much for joining me. And everywhere to follow you is linked down below. Everywhere to follow me is linked down below. And if you have any questions, please comment. And thank you for everybody in the chat. And thank you for everybody watching the replay. I hope you have a great day.
Have a good one. Thank you again.
Thank you.